Looking for some super cool insights into the John Wick universe? With the franchise spanning 4 movies, video game appearances, and a few upcoming spin-offs, the lore of the world can be pretty confusing. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. I mean, the things the cast had to go through in preparation for each film, and what kind of training Keanu Reeves had to go through in order to play his starring role. You just might be surprised by the things Reeves had to do each time he prepared for his role. Here are a few strict rules Keanu had to follow on the set of John Wick. To start off, can we just take a moment to appreciate the dedication Keanu has to his role? I mean, every single one of these movies reaches a whole new level of intensity. He must train a whole lot to get into the zone before filming starts, right? You must be dying to know more about what he does to prepare for his roles. So I'll tell you. Honestly, you might not even believe it when I tell you, because his dedication is almost unbelievable. Like, did you expect that Reeves trained for almost 3 months for John Wick Chapter 4? Wow, that's pretty impressive, right? Yeah, he said in a recent interview that to prepare for the 4th installment, he trained for 12 weeks straight.
No, I mean, that's like
will you
like
make
the
that?
creative act is something special.
It is, yeah.
It's like, and it's storytelling, and what would I do if I couldn't do that?
Sounds pretty dedicated if you ask me. But wait, there's more. Because Keanu has actually said that he has had to train for this long for every John Wick film so far. Crazy how he makes everything look so seamless, huh? Training for weeks and weeks on end must be pretty intense. But Reeves actually has done it for every single film in the franchise so far, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. But it starts to make a lot of sense when you take a look at the absolutely insane stunts he pulls in each film, considering that he does around 95% of his own stunts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm older, so it's harder to show off. And you have more technique, so that helps keep balancing it out. The age is winning, of course, but techniques are helping me get by.
And the fact that each film is up the stakes more and more. It makes sense that he would have to train for that long to fully prepare himself for all of the wild antics he has to perform. But besides the rigorous training, what else do they have to do behind the scenes of a film like this? Well, there's one thing about filming this specific entry in the franchise, John Wick Chapter 4, that could be considered a perk. Of course, I'm talking about the fact that this film takes place in locations all over the world. The fact that the cast and crew had to go through so much traveling over a relatively short period of time might sound appealing to some, but to others it may sound like a stressful nightmare. Wherever you land on that spectrum, the cast and crew had to travel to various locations in Japan, Europe, and the US to film the movie. Way to check things off your bucket list, right? But anyway, this can actually be a really challenging aspect of the job. Leaving home and moving around so much can be a huge source of stress.
The action starts maybe 5 seconds into the and doesn't stop until you leave the theater.
Yeah, there's a lot of action.
You're on a horse at one point.
I mean, yeah.
Shooting people.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Although it may be stressful, the team behind John Wick handled it pretty well. At the end of the day, they got the job done. What more do you want? Moving on, did you ever stop to think about how much thought actually goes into the John Wick scripts? Not to mention the amount of work it takes to bring it to life? Well, here's a bit of insight. The original film was not based on a comic book or video game, unlike most of the movies in the action genre. Yup, Derek Kolstad is noted as being the original creator of the John Wick franchise. But there's something else surprising about it. There were many minds behind the final script of the first movie, and even more for the sequels later on. But what's most surprising is the fact that Keanu Reeves actually takes part in the script writing process. Pretty cool, right? There's a whole team behind each script, but turns out Reeves actually has quite a bit of say when it comes to the final product, and allegedly the scripts are in a constant state of change.
So when we do like skill introductions, like Donnie Yen obviously plays a blind assassin, but he's so hyper skilled. So it's a lot of contact stuff. We did it in what we call the museum room in the Japanese Osaka Hotel. That's why you see all the Japanese artwork and plates and glass. Me and my cinematographer, Dan Lawson, we love light and kooky set pieces, as you can tell throughout the movie.
Which isn't necessarily too out of the ordinary for Hollywood movies. But what is out of the ordinary is the fact that the entire team is constantly working to add last-minute changes and revisions to their work. Yeah, from the actors' performances to the cinematography to the script's structure, every single detail is carefully examined to ensure that the team is going in the right direction. So on top of giving us an incredibly good acting performance, perfecting fighting scenes, and mastering most of his stunts, Keanu Reeves has to give the staff and the writers constant revisions and tweaks to source material, some of which he probably has to come up with or do himself. That sounds like a lot of work, right?
Kind of origin story of how we came up with Chapter 4. It really became the theme of death really came forward, and Chad was really.
But there's more that goes into the making of a film like this. Next, let's talk stunts. Yes, we already covered that Reeves himself has to spend countless hours training and practicing so that he can perform the majority of his stunts. But there are plenty of other actors who have to pull off some seriously crazy stunts while filming that we haven't talked about. For example, this one stunt double had to be pushed down a flight of escalators for the sake of a stunt. What? No way! Did that actually happen? Yes it did.
3, 2, 1, action!
In a recently released behind-the-scenes clip, we see the stunt double essentially hurl themselves off the edge of an escalator while filming. The stunt was necessary for the intense fight scene that they were in the middle of, but it kind of makes you wonder, how many stunt doubles like that have to go through crazy obstacles like that for the sake of a fight scene? Probably more than you think. Since most actors use stunt doubles, there are a lot of people on the John Wick 4 set who have had to risk their safety for their job. It's honestly quite intense, isn't it? Now, you may be asking, what kind of stunts are impossible to do in real life? And the answer? There are actually quite a few stunts that they have to use extra precaution when creating. For example, the escalator fall? The guy who fell had to wear safety gear, knee pads, elbow pads, and of course, a helmet. Obviously, the character in the final movie doesn't have any protective gear, but it is required that the crew wear it. We wouldn't want someone getting seriously hurt for the sake of an action movie, would we?
Fascinated by him. He's capable, and he's cool, and he can do the work. He can do the action sequences.
Knowing that Keanu was involved in it, that was the icing on the cake.
He's an action icon, so, I mean, a lot of us grew up watching his movies.
And for scenes featuring Keanu, sometimes they have to attach a harness and rigs so that he doesn't get hurt. For example, that scene where he's riding a horse down Fifth Avenue in John Wick 3, he had been attached to a bunch of safety gear so that he wouldn't risk his safety because, yes, he was actually riding a horse down Fifth Avenue. Plus, with this specific stunt, they had to have animal training experts on set to make sure that everything went smoothly and the horse was comfortable. And fans can expect even more death-defying stunts like that one in the newest entry in the series. Now that you know a bit more about what went into these movies, from script rewrites to Keanu's stunts to crazy training times and prolonged traveling, a lot of work went into this film. So give it a watch, will you?
It was really intense. It was, it's a place that I had seen as a kid and gone to as a kid.
Those were some rules Keanu Reeves had to follow on the set of John Wick.